Here we go. So my first question is, how has Title IX like affected like your life, like coaching, or you as an athlete when you were an athlete? Wait.
Well, I was an athlete when Title IX was passed, a very young athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I probably reaped the benefits of Title IX. I know a lot of my colleagues and peers in this profession who are a little bit older than me
Mm-hmm.
really saw the changes, from the time they played to the time they got into the coaching profession. But I think Title IX has given our young women so many more opportunities, so many more resources, really. When you think about the scholarships available to them now, in opportunities, and then also the resources that we have at a school like Tennessee, and most of your Division I schools, and then even at your Division II and Division III and NAIA schools. We came from an NAIA program, and you could see more and more resources being devoted to the women's sports because the law required it. So it's just great for young women. And the thing that I see now is so many dads have daughters
Mm-hmm.
that play sports,
Yeah.
and those dads probably grew up playing sports themselves, and now they're the biggest proponents and fighters for their girls when they see inequity in what the boys get and the girls get. And that's where you're seeing Title IX being fought, at the grassroots level. The law may be there, but somebody still has to, wave the flag and fight the battle.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool to see when there is an inequitable situation that dads who remember having, great resources when they were young and playing sports as boys want the same thing for their little girls.
How do you work together while coaching?
We have, it's a challenge. It's always a challenge. We've been coaching together for 28 years and married 26 years. And she's a personality and I'm an A personality, so our roles need to be clearly defined. And sometimes when they cross over, we have the normal disagreements that coaches would. I say all the time, if two coaches agree every time, then neither one of them's worth anything. So we've had some very spirituous conversations, and but it's worked out good for us. It's been good. I respect what she does, and she respects what I do, and I'm more of at least starting out, a hitting coach, and she's more of a defense and pitching coach, although she knows hitting too. So we just kind of make sure we don't get in each other's way.
What is it like to coach for her? Do you like it?
Coach with her?
Uh huh.
I love it. I mean, she's, first place, she's got your back since she's your wife, and you have the opportunity to discuss when you're on vacation, when you're traveling here to there, everything else. But I trust her. I know that she is the best coach I've ever coached with, and I've coached 2 Olympic gold medal teams, so there's been some pretty good coaches there, and she's also been a national team coach. So we've coached with coaches at all levels, and I wouldn't want anybody else.
Let's see. Describe the importance of Title IX that Title IX has over years.
Without it, it's crazy to think where we might be now. I mean, so I guess you could flip the question and say what might things be like without Title IX.
Mm-hmm.
And that world is very difficult to imagine. But I think what's neat about Tennessee in particular is I think Tennessee has always valued female athletes and women's athletic programs without Title IX pushing them to do so. But I think at a lot of places it's taken the Title IX push to get those institutions to devote the money and the resources to the women's programs. And I think we'd see a very different landscape if we had not passed Title IX and required people to treat women fairly.
I'll answer that too. I'll help with that. I coached and played before Title IX, and it was really a men's world when it came to sports, and women were relegated to, yes, we have a women's team, but and et cetera, et cetera. Right now, our contacts at ESPN have told us up front, not just us, but our whole coaching group, that they love women's softball, for instance, and women's sports. but they televise it 24/7 if they could. And last year they televised 1,500 games. Can you imagine that 30 years ago, women's games? I tell my kids right now, because these games are leased out and her sister who lived in Japan can watch them, that when I first started coaching women's sports, we may have 20 people in the stands, and now you're playing in front of 10 million if it's sent all over the world and stuff like that, so it's pretty crazy.
I will say this, I don't think we've achieved the goals of Title IX. I don't think that things are completely equal. And I think people still are misguided in thinking that if a program brings in more money, then they're allowed to have more. That was the whole goal of Title IX, that the source of the funding didn't matter, that sports were supposed to be given the same opportunity to compete. And I think if you look across all sports landscapes, people still believe that, well, if a certain sport or a certain program makes more money, then it's justified that they get more money to, promote their program and outfit their program, and more money towards their student athletes. So I think we still have some battles to fight.
And I think, I'll tell you, I'll speak up to that because I may speak up louder other places too. This equivalency thing for women's sports and baseball, of course. I don't know how baseball does it. They have to have 35 people and they get 11 and a half scholarships. But then softball and soccer, they're equivalency sports. They don't get, the number of scholarships. I think the NCAA, I think it's reached a point that the NCAA needs to just an equal scholarship, not say you get 5%, you get 10%, you get this, you get that. Oh, but if you play another women's sport or something, you get all your scholarship paid. I think it's very unfair, and it's not what Title IX was meant to say.
I think a female head coach feel empowering.
Well, empowering in the sense that I think it's important for our young women to see women in leadership positions. And if they never see women lead, they'll never know that they too can be a leader. And if they grow up in a world where the only people in leadership positions are men, they're just going to assume that that's not available to them. So I think from that standpoint, it is. It's not something I feel on a daily basis or really even think about until I'm asked the question. But I think, yes, it's important for women to lead and to be role models and just to kind of show the way and inspire the next generation of women to lead as well.
Since coaching positions are typically male dominant, was it intimidating when you first became a coach?
Thought of it that way, but I grew up in a home and in a place where I really didn't see male, female, skin color, national origin. It just wasn't a factor. It wasn't discussed. I grew up in a home where from a very young age I was given whatever toy I wanted and told I could be or do anything I wanted to do. So I think I was very fortunate in that sense that I had those role models for my parents, and my parents had a very, equal relationship. It certainly wasn't a traditional household in terms of who did what. Everybody chipped in and did everything. So I've never really looked across the table or looked across the field and thought, I'm a woman, that's a man. I just see that's another coach, and if I prove myself, then I'll get the job or I'll win the battle.
See, have you faced any stereotypes with being a head coach?
I think, you just asked about the male-female thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where I see it sometimes is in how umpires handle things. I think Ralph can get away with more with umpires because he's a man, and I'm talking about most of our umpires are men. And I see it happen with other men coaches as well. And then I just see a difference in the way they interact with me versus how they interact with him.
How do you deal with that?
I get mad.
Sometimes it gets kicked out.
They'll take things from a man they won't take from a woman.
Some umpires, there are
Some, yeah,
there are
some.
some that are very fair, but the
Mhm.
majority, yeah, I would agree with that.
Do you think female coaches are expected to do more? Like, is there a sense of pressure?
Yes and no. I think when it comes to hiring and firing, I think that's where I really see it. If a female coach is let go, there's an immediate stigma attached to her, and it's what did she do wrong? And she must have done something terribly wrong, or she just must be a horrible coach. If a male coach gets let go, well, he just wasn't winning enough games, but he's still a good coach, and he gets a job somewhere else. They don't tend to get blackballed. But for some reason, we think that if a female coach is fired, loses her job, that she's got a scarlet letter on her, and I don't know why that is. So yes, I see a difference.
I think that's all the questions. You guys answered pretty much everything. Thank you for
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
helping us with our project.